Today we're going to be talking about how to homeschool in my Getting Started Step-by-Step series. This is step 1 today. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to Jessica's Homeschool. How to homeschool step 1. We're going to be looking at today state requirements. Every state is completely different, and this is really the first step when you're looking into the process of homeschooling. Each state has their own requirements and regulations, and all of them are different. So it's really a good idea to just take some time and do some research on your particular state on what the requirements are and what the regulations are for you to be able to homeschool your kids at home. All you need to do is look up the requirements simply by doing an online search. Here's an example for the state of Washington. You could type in Washington State homeschooling requirements. Obviously, for the state that you live in, type in your state name and homeschooling requirements to find this information out. You should be directed to a page that is either a .org or maybe it's a .gov or it's a .com that would tell you what regulations and requirements are required. We are going to go over some examples of the different requirements that may or may not pop up for your state. Remember, every single state is completely different, and I have not researched or sat down and looked at every state in the United States and figured out what everyone has to do to be ready to start homeschooling their kids and what requirements might be required of you for this process. So an example is maybe the state requires that you have some college, like a year of college, or you have an equivalent of 45 college credits. That could be something that they might ask, but they usually, even if you don't have college, sometimes will say, if you take a qualifying course, and that's usually done at an outside college, or sometimes there's even qualifying courses that are online now in your state. They should have links to where you could go to take these courses, or if it's online, they'll have a link to the online class. A qualifying course taught by an instructor a lot of times is done at a college, and it's usually about 2 weekends. So you're signing up, it's about $100. You can go, it's over 2 different weekends. Maybe you have to do a Friday night for a couple hours, and then you go back on Saturday for about 6 hours, and then you have to go again the following weekend, and then you've basically gotten all of your requirements for that to be deemed ready to be able to homeschool your kids. And you usually get a certificate that you've completed this course at the end of your class, whether it's online or in person. Now, don't freak out right now. This may or may not even be a requirement for your state. Just remember that. So this is in some states, but it's not in all states. Your state may require that you work with a qualified teacher once a week, a certain amount of time. Maybe it's an hour every week that the student or you need to meet with the qualified teacher to make sure that lessons and things are progressing. This is something that is also in my state. So in case of someone that didn't do college, doesn't have college credits, they have not taken the qualifying course and they just don't want to take that course, they would rather just work with a qualified teacher instead. So those are different options in regards to that. This may not even be something at all in your state. So I just want to emphasize this again. There could be, even in your state, maybe a testing requirements that your kids have to maybe take a test once a year or maybe even more often than that. Our state requires once a year they take a test, like an SAT or an assessment test. Some states might even require bookkeeping or record keeping or keeping immunization records or test scores, just different things like that. So there could be bookkeeping skills also. They want you to keep books on how much time during the day that was spent working with the kids with schoolwork. So that's a requirement in some states too as well. And some states really have very minimal to almost none as far as requirements or qualifications that a parent has to do, or anything that they need to do as far as record keeping or testing or any of that. There are some states that are pretty low key when it comes to homeschooling and the regulations that they have with parents. An example of one of those states with very minimal homeschooling requirements for a parent is the state of Idaho. So that's just FYI, and I'm sure that there's multiple other states, maybe even like that in the nation. So keep that in mind. But don't take my word for it too. Please, if you do live inside of the state of Idaho, please do your research and look into your requirements, because there could be something, since this video has been made, that they require of you. So don't just take my word for it. Any state needs to be researched at the time that you're deciding to homeschool. And it's something maybe to keep up with and do every summer, a little search again at your state and see if there's been any changes to requirements for that state. So for some people, maybe this is a question. You didn't finish high school, but you want to homeschool your kids. Seeing your state's requirements has you worried. I want to start off by saying, if there's a will, there's a way. You're their parent. That makes you qualified to raise your kids and teach your kids. In fact, homeschooling is something that you are going to be learning right alongside with your child. So don't be nervous about jumping into this process and this journey in your life. So if you feel that you can meet the requirements and qualifications to homeschool, then do it. There's nothing stopping you. Look at those requirements. Evaluate possibly what steps that you need to take for your state and start making some action. The best thing you can do for your children is homeschooling your kids. And I encourage you to do everything possible in your power to make that a reality for your family, especially if you are feeling impressed to do that right now. And that was something that came onto me, a very heavy heart, that I needed to start doing that for my kids. And that will be in something that we'll talk about in our story. But I want you to know you can do this too. Take a deep breath and know that you're not alone on this journey. And know that I believe in you. I know you can do it. I'll put a link below to step 2, to the next video in this series. Thanks so much for watching the channel, and please remember to subscribe so you don't miss another important video. Thanks again.